Hello, Chris.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon, and good night. That's not something you would normally hear at a live event.
And it is so appropriate here, isn't it?
It is, it is.
Christopher, you created hybrid events in reaction to the pandemic, and in your own words, as an industry, we had no choice but to move away from live events. This was last resort and an education. Very accurate, very true. But what do you think? How long this situation is going to last? Will the virtual events stay with us for longer? And what the future holds for virtual events?
Well, a simple answer is that virtual events will only be here for as long as they're needed. And that's a very clear, very precise answer. The technology we use for virtual events is exactly the same technology that we have been using at live events for the last 10, 15 years. We are very used to these event apps, and that technology isn't really going to change.
But you don't need, like, right now, you don't need big venues, you don't need catering, you don't need many things that we got used to throughout those years of normal events. Right now, the situation changed. And for example, I even said it today, that many people from event agencies that I know are waiting for this situation to come to an end. They're waiting, they're looking forward to get vaccinated. They expect the vaccine to bring back the normality. I'm just using the air quotes intentionally. So what do you think
I mean, it's wishful thinking. 2021 is a holding pattern. It's going to stay as a holding pattern. We had a lift of restrictions in the UK in the summer, and venues could open to 50% capacity. We did an experiment, quite a few experiments very quickly, with hybrid events. And we had a virtual audience, and we also had the audience at the venue itself. Now, with virtual events, they're the first one that I pivoted. Ticket prices had dropped by 50%. Interestingly, by the time we got to the summer and we had this first hybrid event, ticket prices had doubled. And I've no idea how much we could have charged for the actual being at these physical events. Sponsorship had dropped 70% with virtual events. Getting sponsors is hard for virtual events. They get very little out of it. But at the physical event, they were willing to put money in and partner you and be part of the kind of revolution of let's get back to normal physical events.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I've seen, the clients, the investors also changed their way of thinking, don't they?
I don't think they've changed their way of thinking. I think they would, just like we are as an industry. We're a $10 trillion industry of direct spend. We're a huge industry, and we had to do something. We got clients, we've got to fulfill the brief. There's a budget already in place for their marketing campaigns. They needed us to come up with something, and I praise that, the work. I mean, that some of the apps like Hopin and Brella and SpotMe and Glisser and, the platform we're using this evening. I mean, it is incredible the work they've done to step up to that. Yes, Damien.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that I'm not going to interrupt you anymore. I'm going to leave you with our viewers for you to continue your speech.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll screen share a presentation which covers, hopefully, Damien, and quite a few of your points.
Getting ready, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're ready for our last presentation in this part of our conference. At 10 o'clock, you'll have a chance to participate in the panel of our experts. I think, Christopher, you're also going
to... Yeah, I'm trying to share, and we had this in rehearsal, actually, and I don't know why it is not picking up the tab.
Do you know, I always say that
But it's happened.
the most beautiful things emerge from chaos. That's just remembers the birth of Venus, basically. So the most beautiful things emerge from chaos. So feel free to try.
Well, I mean, if it doesn't share, I mean, it doesn't look like it is going to share. What I will do is I will talk us through it. I mean, I would like to take us.
All right, so the floor is yours, basically. I'm out.
Yeah, I'll talk you through it. I mean, I did make a presentation to show, but it's not here. First of all, I want to just show the event industry pre-pandemic. And, you know, like I said before, we're a $9 trillion direct spend industry. And for the last 3 years, we've been growing at 8% year on year. There are 2.6 million businesses whose primary purpose is to service the event industry, employing over 105 million full-time staff. It's a massive industry. Now, when this happened, basically this industry shrunk and it lost 95% of its activity. And in that, the only things that really were still active and profitable were conference and meetings at 5% and trade shows and some exhibitions. And then when you take that 5% and divide it divides down into international and government at 20%, pharma at 30%, tech at 10%, educational at 10%, financial services at 20%, and other at 10%. So 5%, suddenly you've got 105 million businesses bidding for this work. And we don't know, none of us had done it before. Anyone said that they're an expert at this, we're not. You know, we have streamed into events and we have streamed out of events. But on the whole, this was a whole new landscape. After my first large event called Prohibition Live that I pivoted online, 4,000 attendees, 150 speakers, 5 stages, ran for 48 hours non-stop. Now, the attendance was up 300% on the physical event the year before, which is massive. You know, and that was because of the unlimitless amount we could fit in compared to a venue, which is a physical space. You can only put so many people in there. Ticket prices, they dropped by 50%. Sponsorship was down by 70%. Average time watching a keynote speaker was 10 minutes per delegate. I mean, the great thing about the virtual thing is that we can get all this data and we can watch people's movements, you know, very, very kind of like almost micro examine it. But 10 minutes, I mean, they would go in, they would come back out, they'd listen a bit. And even if it was the keynote speaker was a big name in the actual sector, they still couldn't hold the attention for 10 minutes. But the average time spent networking was 2 hours per day. And a day I am rating as an 8-hour day, it was 2 hours. People enjoyed the networking. Sponsors, and what did they get in return for sponsoring? Well, almost every attendee clicked on that sponsor's link. And wherever that went and whatever that did, they at least clicked it. I mean, what they did afterwards is very hard to kind of quantify and to follow. Investor engagement with those looking for investment and those looking to invest was really poor. We have a TV program over here called The Dragon's Den, and it's a very much a UK thing. People go in and they pitch their ideas. At this particular event, there was money there to be pitched and won. And it just didn't happen. No matter how much we pushed it, no matter how much we tried, it failed. 70% of my time, or our team's time, was spent on creating pre-recorded material because it's safer. You know it's pre-recorded, you know when it is, and you just, whether you're using vMix or you're using any other of the mixing clouds, you know it's coming in, and at least that's going to be great. So, but that took up a huge amount of time. You've heard this, you've had some great technical advice. Line check your key speakers. If they tell you don't worry about it, worry about it. You know, good audio is more important than video. People they will put up with your video freezing, but if your audio stops, you lose the track, the energy, any kind of like motivation, excitement that you're generating dissipates. good moderators and presenters. I mean, this is absolutely key. And one of the things that I did for this particular event was I employed 5 presenters, and I made them, as part of my marketing campaign, do an interview with one of the keynote speakers, which I then fed out to the audience as a teaser. But at least that gave me a chance to train the presenter in what we were doing, for them to get some kind of subject matter understanding. And then the global reach, the actual reach of people we would not normally reach, that increased by 60%, which is huge. And it is one of the things that virtual events has allowed us to do is we're borderless. So, I get asked these particular questions now, today, all the time. What virtual platform should I use? My answer is always very simple. It does not matter. Now, you have a choice of whether you want kind of the avatar style, or you want virtual reality style, or you want just as we've got right now, a live, interactive, maybe some pre-recorded, some video event. The key thing is that they all fundamentally do the same thing. We're looking at a screen from our homes, our offices, and that's it. I also get asked a lot about how secure a virtual event is. Now, I don't know, in the US, you probably didn't see this, but in over here in Europe, it made an absolute storm. There was an EU security meeting happening. And one of the security ministers, I believe it was the Dutch minister, took a photo of himself with his computer in the background, and he tweeted it out. On it was the password into the EU security meeting with all the security ministers from 27 states. A reporter entered it in just as a kind of like gag, and he turned up in that meeting, and it made the press. So if anyone tells you they're secure, they're not. People can get into them. What can I sell to sponsors and exhibitions? I touched on that before, but basically it's you can sell the data of what people are doing, but targeted networking. But we can sell that at live events as well. It's targeted networking. And what does your sponsorship really want to get? Most sponsors, 1 or 2 good sales or 1 or 2 good leads is enough. And that's the same in the physical. How much should I charge for tickets? Well, ticket prices have fallen 30% on that first 50%. So it's now fallen 80%. So its trajectory is downward. Cheaper, cheaper, cheaper. How do I market the event? I am going to push people to think small, regular, targeted. Do the things that virtual events do best. For Europe, pick a country and somewhere in Asia who would not normally send a delegation over. Create something which intrigues them and gives them an opportunity to meet new business leads. Should we postpone physical events for 2021? Yes, absolutely yes. I'm convinced that any attempt to do this is going to just fail and be costly. Are there COVID-19 safe venues or destinations? No, they are not. And it is not showing any signs that there's going to be. So wishful thinking is not enough. Those destinations are not coming out. Yeah. Will people come back to physical events? Well, human behavior has changed. We've been told continually the messaging of social distance. We now live in a social distance world. It's in our psyche to walk around big crowds of people. In the UK, we had a period in the summer when venues were allowed to open at 50% capacity for business events. So as you can imagine, we rushed together and worked as a team at the design center and the business center and the Excel to put on some hybrid events. And we tried them, and the findings from that were fascinating. The demand for face-to-face meetings was huge. The tickets sold out in a few days. Ticket prices, like I said in my intro, I put the ticket prices set them at a very high price. I thought this is outrageous. People paid it straight away, no questions, no kind of argument. I have no idea how high I could have taken those prices. Sponsors were willing to pay a premium to be part of a hybrid physical event. But there was significant costs in making the venue COVID safe. We've got to keep our staff, our employees, the venue, our attendees safe. And there's an expense to that, but that was offset with the ticket price rise, even though the number is only running at 50% capacity. Virtual tickets demands were highest for a hybrid style event, which was interesting. Venues were more flexible. They started to become like partners, and rather than a silo of their own. They're just worried about selling their space as often and at the highest price as they can. They are starting to open a dialogue with event professionals like everybody here. They're opening up that dialogue and going, can we work together to create something so that we can get an income, even if it's just covering costs? Marketing hybrid events is absolutely one of the easiest things I've ever had to do. I've never experienced anything except for like the Motown 50 tours and things like that that market themselves. This brought a lot of business press, but it also brought a lot of mainstream television and media press across Europe. It was easy. Engagement at the live hybrid event was very interesting. Everybody at the events, I mean, these weren't big events. I mean, these were kind of like only 100 people in a COVID secure space, but they all interacted with each other. They all and they all went away and followed up on their connections they made at the physical event. But the interaction with the virtual ticket holders was literally 5%. Hardly any at all. And so, but the virtual event holders were spending 80% of their time. So it's up from 10 minutes of watching a keynote speaker. They watched 80%. 80% of them watched the whole keynote speaker. And their interaction was in the virtual platform. So it shows that even when we make a hybrid event, that actually the people at the physical still are getting the better deal. But it also has a positive effect on those at the virtual. They actually do pay far more attention to it if it is a physical event. We then had restrictions changing landscape again. Venues were closed. TV studios were open, just as a lot, if anyone's been following the trend, the thread or the stage on your production team, green screen, virtual kind of backgrounds, trying to get your key speakers filmed, high broadcast quality. What we're making now is TV. We're not making a little Skype call. It's TV, and people want to be immersed. I keep hearing this. How do we get immersed? We get immersed by creating a fantastic TV program that people want to watch. And it needs B-roll. You need to understand the cutaways, and it needs rhythm. It needs pattern. It needs power and passion. So the next step for us as a company and for me as a self, I teamed up with Excel, and we produced and we have up running a hybrid event studio, which at the moment we're in lockdown, so we can't use it. But it's there, and it's an LED stage set. Fully kind of transformable, brandable, and we can film your live show and then take that to the virtual audience. And it's incredibly different to having a green screen behind you. We can do a walkthrough of a red carpet live. It's live. It's not pre-recorded. And the sponsors get huge value of being on the big LED screen, and they're behind the speaker, the placement. It's for want of a better word, it's a real live event that you're watching, and you're part of it. So that to me is great. So my recommendations for 2021, are to create these event hubs. Now, that doesn't have to be a hybrid, studio is expensive, but an event hub can be in your offices. It can be somewhere where all your feeds are coming in, and there is a group of 15, 20, 30, 50, whatever your restrictions allow. At the moment, in Australia, they could do, I think it's 100, 200 maybe. In New Zealand, it's unlimited. Make that your hub, and then all the other virtual things plug into that hub. It makes such a difference. Negotiate hard, really hard, with your supplier of the virtual platform and your supplier of the venue, and your suppliers in general. People need the work. You know, our workforce, 105 million people full-time employed, they need the work, and they won't charge their normal daily fee. Partnerships, start to really examine kind of who can I partner with, you know, within the event industry and even outside of the event industry. We're seeing some great innovation, you know, with new software and new technologies. This year, right now, book your venue for 2022. Make that booking now. If you don't, 2022, you're not going to get a venue, a good venue. Yeah, and if you do, it's going to be so expensive for your client or for yourselves. You know, book your speakers now. Speakers, you know, are not getting paid, you know, to come and give their expertise, share their insights. Book them now. You'll get a good price. Book them for 2022. And then use your hybrid and virtual events to promote your 2022 physical event. So using the targeted kind of outreach, if you like, you know, that the virtual gives, you excite people about 2022. You're giving them something to look forward to, and you might be surprised. I mean, I can be nowhere than where I am right now, but I believe you'll be very surprised at who will travel a long way to come to a physical event once they have had a year of hybrid and virtual marketed at them regarding your physical event. Virtual, hybrid, physical. I would love to say this is going to go in a lateral way, that we're going to go from virtual to hybrid and physical, and it's going to be beautifully kind of seamless, one to the next to the next. My experience of what's just happened over the last 12 months is it doesn't work like that. You know, it's a deadly disease that kills people, and it's moving and it's changing. We don't know. So we're going to be going backwards to virtual lockdown. Hybrid will come into its own, I think, in this year. And there may be a few physical events. And to give you an example of that, the Flaming Lips played a live concert in Oklahoma 2 days ago, and the audience and band were all in bubbles. These big, enormous plastic bubbles over them. And that was the return of kind of live music trying to get itself together. But I will end on this, that human behavior really has changed. It's changed so much that Van Morrison, passionate about music, and he did in the summertime, again, when we had this break of venues, he did a gig at the Electric Ballroom, which has a capacity of 3,000. They only sold 1,000, or they were selling 1,000 tickets, socially distanced, and that his ticket price was the cheapest that he's put a ticket price on in the history that I've known Van Morrison, and he could not sell the tickets. People are fearful of carrying this disease, spreading the disease. They're fearful that actually the event industry cannot protect them. We have to prove this, and it will happen with the help of virtual, hybrid, and physical. The one thing that we know about event professionals is we are inventive, creative, and we don't just fall at the first hurdle. We create, we look outside the box, we reach to each other, we share experience. This event is a prime example of that. And I'll leave it there.
I mean, well, first of all, thank you very much for this eye-opening presentation. You addressed so many important issues that are still ahead of us. But there's one thing that stays unchanged, and I think this is a phrase, I'm going to quote you right now. This is something that each and every event professional should have engraved on his or her coat of arms, which is, if they tell you not to worry, worry. Okay. If you don't mind, I'm going to just ask you one more question, okay?
Sure,
I'm going to ask you also for a brief answer, since we are almost out of time. Okay, you are known as one of the lead advocates for creating sustainable events. Will virtual events play a part in this process?
Well, interestingly, I mean, you know, I am the voice behind the event greening program, and we've been using Zoom and Hopin for years to save flights. discussing how to clean up events. So I do hope that there will be a place for virtual events to try and take our carbon footprint down. A lot of people in the event industry don't realize this, and I'll just end on this, is we are the 5th most polluting sector in the world. That has to change. That's not sustainable. And that is a big challenge for us all. And I do believe that virtual events has a role to play in that.
I'm going to say also one more thing. I absolutely agree with you, quoting you, that this is the perfect storm for change within the event sector. This is the thing you said, and I agree totally. And I also think that the storm basically is a chance for you to learn how to swiftly navigate your shift. So this is the opportunity we get to learn new things.
Absolutely, and I think something you can't underestimate is that and you've heard other speakers mention this on other streams, but there's a generational shift. A shift of, and I hate to like put people in boxes, but they're called Generation Z. They were born in this technology world. They are flexible. They are adaptable. They are not so attached to brands. They don't mind if their brands are not there. At the same time, the fastest growing event sector before the lockdown was esports. People turned up. Huge stadiums, I think the largest one was 250,000 people came to watch screens of the top e-gamers playing a game which they could play at home. So
that is so true.
That is a fascinating kind of like future, and I like I say, I'll leave it there. That was, to me, an eye-opening stat.
Thank you once again. Thank you very much for being with us. And get ready, because you're about to begin the roundtable debate. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, huge round of applause, virtual applause for Christopher Pleydell.
Thank you very much.